What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draft Rankings Show. I'm Cody Carpentier, joined as always with my main man, Matty Key-Woom. And we're right in the thick of fall camp, training camp, preseason, whatever word you prefer to use for what is the 2025 month of August in the NFL. That's where we're at. That's what we're doing. 3 weeks down, 3 weeks in the books of training camps since it really started to kick off. This weekend felt like football was back. It felt like you'd turn the TV on, football was back. You'd have this, the super shitty Dolphin Bear game on the television. The next thing you'd see is this Saints, and I don't even remember who the Saints even played. Saints and Chargers, was it last night? Like, it's just not good football, but we do get to see a couple of guys that are trying to make the team. And I guess, Maddie, I'll just ask you this. Did you see any Bo Nix? Not Bo Nix. Maybe yes. Maybe that's interesting because I was going for Quinn Ewers there. Did you see any Quinn Ewers, any Joe Milton, any of these quarterback stat lines, any of these highlights? Did you watch any of these games? Because those were the two quarterbacks that jumped out to me that the aggregators on the old X account like to just Joe Milton looks so good. And then it's like this missile down the field that's nowhere near anybody. And then the Quinn Ewers one is, Quinn Ewers is going to suck. Quinn Ewers isn't going to have a career because he was 5 for 18. And it's like, well, the one clip they used was like nobody was open, so he threw the ball out of bounds, which is what we saw Rodgers and Brady done for 20 years. So how did you decipher any of these quarterbacks, and how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. But in terms of these quarterbacks, it's really more about when they come in the game and how long they stay in the game.
Yeah.
That I've really kind of taken notice for. And for Joe Milton, obviously, he played most of the game. They really want to see what they have. But I think they already know what they have. I think their price in terms of what they traded dictated what they had. I don't think it's worth being all that excited about. Quinn Ewers, on the other hand, I was really more – I don't know if excited is the word. I don't know if you can actually get excited for a guy like Quinn Ewers coming in after Zach Wilson. For me, it was just more like, okay – they're going to give, Zach Wilson the 9 pass attempts. Yep. They're going to give 2 a 6. They're going to let those guys wait. But the fact that Quinn Ewers was in the game and played, significantly more, for me, the takeaway was just, okay, this guy's going to have to climb mountains to get a chance. Luckily for him, he's on a team where the mountains tend to come down. They tend to crumble a little bit. Tua Tagovailoa has missed plenty of time in his career. And if it gets to the point where like Tua's out for the year, there's almost 0% chance Zach Wilson grabs that job and is good enough in that job that, okay, no. So I do think Quinn Ewers, like I said, coming in third, playing the most, I do think he has a lot of leeway before he can be even, thought of as a quarterback in this league in getting minutes at the position in real games. It's just looking at it, I was like, well, Zach Wilson hasn't really gotten any better in a different offense. Tua is Tua. So my takeaway in that specific case, and like I said, I'm not getting excited. It's not that I can get excited about. It's just something I took away was Quinn Ewers has a long way to go.
Yeah.
But you and I could be talking by Christmas being like, this is Quinn Ewers' third start. What are we thinking?
Yeah, that would mean Miami's not in a good spot. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure that wouldn't mean that Miami's probably not vying for a top 5 pick if something like that happens. The Broncos on the other side, a quarterback that I think it's interesting to see who the efficient quarterbacks are in the preseason because it shows you, obviously connection. It shows you understanding of offense, and which is kind of the polar opposite of what we saw from Quinn when he goes 5 for 18. Is you go to Denver, and this shouldn't have been, if you were to predict who's going to be the most efficient quarterback of the preseason, you probably don't pick Jarrett Stidham at the top there, but we knew that Sean Payton loved Jarrett Stidham a year ago, and Stidham goes to Denver, I think it was just a year ago, or 2023, the first year Payton was there, after bouncing around New England to the Raiders, to then Denver. He goes 14 for 15, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, and leads the Broncos to a 30-9 meaningless win against the Niners. but helped them get out. By halftime it was 20-9. This thing was all but in the book, and then Sam Ehlinger came in and was mild. But I was just floating around looking at box scores, looking at clips from games as you were, and it was like him, Tyson Bagent kind of popped out a little bit to me playing that Bears game. Bagent's one that he feels like he's climbing the rung, and I'm not sure he's ever going to get an opportunity to like be a starter going into a season. But look at who's in the room with him right now. Case Keenum, 8 for 10, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like the definition of what Jarrett Stidham is, the definition of what you want in a QB2 lined up behind a guy, which is the polar opposite of what we're talking about in Miami right now, where you have a super volatile quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, and then you also have this guy that shoulda, coulda, woulda been a projection quarterback in Zach Wilson, and then Quinn Ewers, who we just talked about. It's like it's not the most. It's maybe the least trustable, least trustworthy quarterback room in Miami, and then you look at these other spots where it's like all you need to do is just be competent. Just be competent and keep the thing together, be able to just glue all the cracks and run the offense. And I thought that that's something that when I look at Tyson Bagent, when I looked at Jarrett Stidham, that's what it made me think of. Another one that popped out to me was Sam Howell. And Sam Howell was 11 for 13 in the game, 105 yards. But I saw him at training camp. I went to training camp last week in Minnesota while I was up there. And to be honest with you, I once I saw him and was like, oh, that's Sam Howell. I was like, yeah. They traded for him this spring. I remember now. But I'll be honest, when I showed up, I was looking for JJ, and I was like, man, who's that quarterback? thinking, who's that quarterback? Because he looked good. He looked like a tier better than Rippon and Max Brosmer. I was like, man, Sam Howell's, he looks like he's maybe taking a step in the fashion that is get to the next level so that you can be the trustworthy QB2. I also will say this, and I know I'm ranting about quarterbacks and mild quarterback play. JJ McCarthy didn't play a lot in the game, but what I'll tell you what I saw in training camp last week on Thursday and Friday, or on Wednesday and Thursday, was I don't think he's going to be a true tide two boat lifter. What's the fucking phrase?
The strongest tide lifts all boats.
I always fucking butcher it. So
the boats that are in the water and they go higher and lower, and then
he's not going to be your Jaden Daniels. He's not going to lift this thing up here, right? But the fact that the Minnesota roster is what the Minnesota roster is on offense and defense, I think that JJ. This is what I told some buddies that I saw at training camp and I walked out with. I said, you know what? I'm not the most impressed with JJ, but what he is a younger, more athletic, cheaper, very, 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 very viable, very, very, very viable quarterback that can do everything Kirk could do and some. And he's obviously cheaper and younger. So you have to be happy with it. Can he be a top 10, top 8 fantasy football quarterback? Maybe, but it's going to hinge solely on, do the touchdowns go in the passing direction or the rushing direction? Is it going to be Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones combining for 30 touchdowns? Or is it going to be JJ that when they get down there, it's a bunch of bootlegs to Hawkinson and they hit Addison on these option routes and shit like this? That's going to be how he gets in there. But will he just, marauder through a season and throw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns? I don't think so.
Right. It seems as if that the system and the team built around him is, it must be heaven for these quarterbacks. And that is a good takeaway, a big takeaway, a good point that you brought up in terms of, touching on Sam Howell, but every quarter, even Brosmer. It's like, Brosmer would rip in the back of the end zone, threw a touchdown to, was it Price, I think, or who caught the touchdown? Yeah, Miles Price. Miles Price got the touchdown. Kevin O'Connell just knows how to get quarterbacks going. And I mean, when Sam Howell's agent was like, hey, we're going to go get you to be the backup in Minnesota, he must have been excited because this is the guy that you want to be coaching or playing for. This is the coach you want to be playing for in Kevin O'Connell if you're a quarterback. No doubt about it.
All right, I'm gonna list off a couple of our running back stat lines, and I just want to see which one catches your eye. First off, we'll go to Dallas. Phil Maffa, 10 carries, 36 yards for the Cowboys. Malik Davis next to him had the next most, 7 for 63. The Rams, this is an interesting one. Cody Schrader, Jarquez Hunter, and Blake Corum got the bulk of carries. Corum, 9 for 32. Jarquez, 11 for 41, so both combined average 3.6 per. Cody Schrader, though, 5 for 59 in that backfield. You go down to Tampa, you had Sean Tucker, 13 for 50. We had an injury in Tennessee, which allowed Khalil Mullings, not Julius Chestnut, to get some carries. Mullings ended up 7 for 33 on the ground. Julius Chestnut, 3 for 18. Any of these guys jump out? Because I want to tell you who jumped out to me, and I'm not sure if you know exactly who it is.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the names you brought up, but there are two other names that I'll bring up after you. So I won't step on your take. I'm going to answer you.
Step on it.
No. This is how we're going to do it. We know
Elevate.
each other. We do this a lot. I'm not going to be the tide that lifts all boats. I'm just going to ride the wave. I'm going to answer the question, let you take it. And if you don't hit on the guy I'm thinking of and the other one, then I'm going to hit two more. So we're going to talk about a bunch. But of these guys, the two things that stood out from the questions you just brought up. One, when it comes to Phil Maffa, he going to have to do better. This was a tryout because they are familiar with Malik Davis.
Yep.
For better or worse. When it was Rico or Malik, there was a question before the injury.
Yep.
So he came in and looked awesome. I would imagine that Phil Maffa is the one that is going to be on the bubble based on this usage. That's what I would say. And he didn't run all that great. We knew he was kind of like a big galoot, and he ran like one. 10
Great word.
3.6. Big galoot. Just not really the punch that I think they would like to see. I would imagine now Phil Maffa on the bubble is going to be something that absolutely starts to get, talk to you can start hearing in camp. But when it comes to the Rams, I was watching that backfield being like, that looks like a pretty good backfield to me. I like the skill sets of Corum, Schrader, Hunter, and kind of how they complement each other. I like those running backs. These are all running backs that I've expressed my pleasure for in terms of the scouting aspect.
Yeah.
And yet on top of it all, Kyron Williams signs an extension, so it don't matter. They're going to use Kyron like they've always used Kyron, and the rest will just get what they get. But I was watching that the whole backfield being like, I kind of like how they bring. I like how Hunter runs hard, and then you got Cole. Like they'll run tough. They're not really all that special. They kind of just get the job done. But I was like, man, that'd be an interesting little backfield there if that was the actual case. But Kyron Williams, he's signed nice long term.
So my guy was Malik Davis. You touched on him directly. I was like, I think he's gonna go this way. Malik Davis was the guy. I was like, it has to matter, right? The Phil Maffa thing, it has to matter. The fact that he gets the opportunities, he gets all the bulk. And I've looked at him, and I think I took him in the last round of the Scott Fish Bowl because I was like, man, I love Jaden Blue, don't get me wrong, but Jaden Blue has had a problem staying on the field at times. And so I wonder. And I wonder if Phil Maffa can just come in there. He was at a Power 5 school at Clemson, showed he could rush for 1,000 yards and do the damn thing. A little underwhelming. And then you forget Malik Davis is just kind of the guy that everybody forgets about when they're thinking of, everybody. You think of Javonte and Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa, and you're like, well, if none of this works, they probably bring Leonard Fournette in or some shit like this. Well, what about this 5'11", 202-pound Malik Davis has been in the – gosh, how long has he been there now? 3 years? 4 years? 3 years?
Yeah, he's been around. Yeah, he's like, 27 or 28, I think.
This is third year. Last year, he didn't touch the ball.
He was hurt, right?
2023 didn't touch the ball. 2022, he had 38 carries, $161 touchdown, added 6 catches for 63. So, it's pretty much his de facto second season being healthy. Any other running backs that jump off the screen to you? The only other one I would want to mention, I know there's some other ones with nice stat lines, but Keaton Mitchell in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
9 for 68, 7.5 yards per carry, showing that he's healthy. I don't know what this does to Derrick Henry's workload because we know that they love him. And obviously Justice Hill was there. I get that. I get that as, for the podcast audience, Maddie puts up the goose egg on his hand. But it's like a year ago, they wanted to really get Keaton Mitchell involved here. And like,
they'll get him involved, yeah.
You have to mentally get him involved more than you do Justice Hill, because Justice Hill, they absolutely love. They might love him more than they like Derrick Henry. But Keaton Mitchell's like that next guy that is, you think about putting him in a backfield with the monster that is Derrick Henry, the big dog, Lamar Jackson, and then, you you run this inverted wishbone thing with those three guys,
Mhm.
and holy shit.
Yeah, you can get funky. I think I like what I saw. I think there's going to be the Keaton Mitchell stands. They're going to get a little too loud, but listen, volume's going to be volume, and I think keeping his volume at a minimum, and I know it's like a kind of a hasty word, but I think it's true minimum, keeps him on the field. I think it helps them when they need it most. Let the big dog eat, and then let the lightning bug come in when they can make something happen out of it. Now I had additional guys, so the running backs you want me to touch on, I'm going to go rapid fire because I have three. I was hoping you'd take one away from me, but you didn't. I kind of inadvertently took one away from you, even though I didn't think so. But I'm going to go rapid fire 3 running backs and why I think their stat lines were important. First one, Corey Kiner
Yep.
from Cincinnati, now with the Niners. 10 carries, made the most of his 10 carries, 45 rushing yards, so 4.5 a clip, not bad. But we keep hearing about all the injuries. Jordan James is now hurt. Isaac Garendo is banged up. And Kiner in a weaker class might have had a little bit more buzz, good college numbers, good athlete, fast. So this might be the out of nowhere guy that you just have to keep your eye on. Wearing number 49, gross, I know. But with all the shambles going on in San Francisco, cannot completely forget about him. Our guy, Rocket Sanders, you need to go get him in Dynasty if no one drafted him in your Dynasty league, go get him. Trade a fourth in 26 for him right now because I don't know if the Anaji stuff is a troll or not. You see the picture of him with the helmet with his eye closed. I think it's a troll. I don't think you'd put that on the internet if it wasn't, but we talked about this off the record when it first happened. They downplayed Pierre Paul's injury until you saw the damage. Maybe they are going to downplay this injury until they can't hide it any longer because he's still not doing anything. He's walking around the field. They're not really allowing him to do much. And I'm sorry, I know he was a favorite for a lot of people when he came out. Kamani Vidal smells. Kamani Vidal is not an NFL running back. Rocket Sanders may get significant touches in a backfield that's going to run the rock a ton, especially if Najee Harris is not going to be able to play. And the last guy we talked about him last week. So if you want to hear more about kind of our breakdown on this running back and why we are not forgetting about him in Miami, Ollie Gordon. That offensive line is going to be dog shit, which I can't imagine is going to be great for Devon Achane and Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright, to your credit, you talked about his one trick was really just running up the field very fast coming out of Tennessee. I was a little bit more into the profile. You kind of hit it, and but either way, that's not the type of profile that succeeds with a shite offensive line.
Yep.
What could have success, what might have success, is my boy Ollie Gordon, all 6'2", 225 pounds of him. That is the type of running back that they may have to use if Achane is getting beat up because his offensive line is terrible. So seeing him, get the 8 carries, run pretty well with them, scoring a touchdown in close yardage was like, ooh, don't forget that.
I like that. I think that's interesting because obviously you got the Tyreek Hill, stamp of approval to get Achane out of the game and Ollie right into the game from last week. So that was interesting. The Kiner thing, I remember vividly talking to you about him during the Shrine Bowl. You texted and asked, and how's Kiner look? Because we're both fans of Kiner, and I brought it up on the show last week with Alex on the roster watch, and I was like, man, they got Corey Kiner. It's like, why are you going after? Why did you go sign Jeff Wilson? And why are you
Amir Abdullah?
Floating hair here. Amir Abdullah, and like they brought in Dearness Johnson and things like this. I'm like, why? Like, he's like, well, maybe Corey Kiner sucks. And I'm like, well, we learned this weekend that Corey Kiner doesn't suck.
Right.
I think he's a good back. I think he's a respectable back, and I think you could say he's a little better than who you brought up in Kamani Vidal. Interesting group nonetheless. There was one thing I wanted to touch on quickly was the Dolphins are working out this morning. Free agent running back Jamal Williams.
I saw that.
He also worked out in Chicago last week. So it seems like Jamal might be the big boy, the big goal line back that gets the first crack ahead of Leonard Fournette. But that Jamal, that should worry. That worried me right away when I read it about I think I quote tweeted it from a stall at a wedding this weekend. I was like, well, that's not important that he
Not
was,
not
visiting Chicago. It's like it has to hurt Roshan, because all we heard was Roshan was like he's the short yardage guy. Mana guy was supposed to get this work. This is also this should matter. Like as dumb as it sounded a week ago when Dearness Johnson and Jeff Wilson visited San Fran, we had to worry about it. And then guess what happened? Isaac Guerrero out for a couple of weeks. It's the same thing that, these guys, they're telling you what they're telling you. You get the news from Adam Schefter. He says that Jamal Williams is visiting the Dolphins this weekend or today. What's that mean for Ollie Gordon? What's that mean for Jalen Wright? Guess we will wait and see. One thing I want to touch on before we get out of here, and I just want to get, a sentence from you, Maddie. And we'll exit out of here because we planned for a shorter show or almost twice as long as we talked about doing.
I knew it was going to happen. Knew it.
When you look and you sort, so they have this great site called NFL GSIS Stats. I love it because it sorts through everything, especially in preseason, helps you kind of sort through stuff. When you look at the leading receivers from this weekend, there's a name on here that I didn't expect to see. He finished the weekend third in receiving yards in week 1 of the preseason. His name is Jamar Chase. Why did Jamar Chase catch more than one football? Why did Jamar Chase play more than one snap in this game? Why did Jamar Chase play in this game? Period. Why? 4 for 77 and a touchdown for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is this bullshit? Is this they lose to Philadelphia? Is this like, hey, we got to make sure they're on the same page because, heaven forbid Burrow and Chase aren't on the same page? Is this what is your thoughts here? Because I saw that. I was like, why the fuck is he playing?
Dude, this is so funny. I've been thinking about this organically. I swear to you, I'm not just making this up. I was thinking about this in my big picture here. I was like, why are they playing? I'm on the treadmill the other day at the gym. I'm watching TV. It was this game Thursday night, right? Or whatever. So I go on Friday morning. I'm on the treadmill, look up, and I see the headline was like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have big nights. And I'm like, what? Big nights week 1? So I go look up. Shit. They had like legit fantasy days.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, why are they playing? And I thought about it. You get that clarity when you're on the treadmill. I was thinking to myself, what is the big criticism for Bengals and Zach Taylor as a head coach?
Early starts
and toughness.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that Joe Burrow's tough, but the toughness doesn't permeate from him. The team is still soft, even though they have one of the biggest dog quarterbacks. And my thought was, these are the current champions, even though they didn't play anybody. I think this was a measuring stick toughness type of thing where Zach Taylor was like, you guys want to play? I want to see how you guys measure up. And they said, bet. And they did. And the thing is, you got to save Jamar Chase from himself because he's so damn good. He's going to get the rock. If he's on the field, he's open. He's going to get the rock.
Yep.
And you saw it. 4 targets, caught all of them, 77 yards and a tutty. He's the best receiver in football. And he's amazing. He's one of the top 10 players in the league. I don't even know what it is. I wasn't paid to say that, but I think it's just a measuring stick on toughness. Like, let's just get out there. Let's be tough. Let's get sharp early because last year, the 4 start, losing the Patriots, the lonely Patriots, 3-win Patriots, shit Patriots, 4 wins, whatever it was. Whatever it is, they sucked last year and they beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. So I think it was just a chance here for Zach Taylor and the team to say, let's get sharp. Let's make sure these number 2 pencils are sharp, ready to rock, ready to take this test. Because even Chase Brown out there running effectively on 5 carries, caught a bunch of balls. Like, they came out to. This was a measuring stick. That's a long way to say a long thing. But basically, I blew my 1-sentence max immediately. But that's just the show.
Yeah, I asked for 1 sentence and I got 1 whole segment. So that's how we do it here at the Draft Ranking Show. Go check out the blue chips this week. It'll be up on Player Profile at some point when Matty Q gets that bad boy posted. Click that like button, click subscribe if you're here on the channel. We appreciate you for all the growth, and we're going to continue to churn out more and more shows as Maddie and I get further and further away from vacations, hopefully, and closer to the football season. We're going to keep on grinding through. We appreciate you, love you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.